How's it going, guys? We are the Sci Nerd Authors. Welcome to our movie review YouTube channel. I'm Zach.
And I'm Zenmo.
And today we're going to be reviewing the movie Alpha, which came out in 2018. I really enjoyed it. I'm the movie buff of the pair. We're brothers, and how it usually works is that I find movies that I enjoy and I kick it over to him. I force him to watch them, and then he gives me his opinion on it. So overall, I enjoyed it. What did you think?
I didn't walk out. I'm a pretty tough sell, so I watched the whole thing. I thought it was good. Thought it was worth a review.
Yep. Well, given that he's into the outdoors, and this movie is, I guess you could technically describe it as a caveman movie, takes place in Europe 20,000 years ago, and it's a film about survival and, friendship, family, and Dogs. Yeah, definitely made for dog lovers. And on that note, it was written and directed by Albert Hughes, who came to fame really, I think, from Dead Presidents, Book of Eli, From Hell, even the Jack the Ripper movie, with Johnny Depp.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I thought it was really cool that a dude with his background took a crack at making a caveman movie. So I thought that was really interesting. So anyway, it was shot in mainly Alberta, Canada, even though it takes place in Europe.
Canada.
And had a lot of Icelandic actors and crew members in it.
Well, there was no English in the whole movie. The whole movie was subtitled, which I thought was really cool. It sounded like they did a good job with the language, and that it was based off of something that kind of sounded like Latin. There was aches and stuff, something that could be the precursor to Latin is what I thought.
Yeah, you could take it that way. I did some research on that. I thought, not knowing too much about it myself, I thought that it would be probably a play on like ancient Indo-European or something, since that's what where they were located. But I looked that up. The language is actually made up, just like Dothraki or Klingon.
Oh, Klingon.
So whoever came up with this is probably a linguist, but they said it works just like Dothraki and Klingon works, but ultimately they made it up for the movie.
Huh.
And you don't see many movies with totally subtitled in a made-up language anymore. So I thought that was brave of these guys to go through that.
That was a good, interesting point.
Yep. And very well written. I thought the psychology and the sociology of the writing was very good. You can tell that Hughes really thought a lot about it. And I guess you would have to be an animal person to write a story like this, because ultimately it is about how we came to domesticate wolves. And on that note, about the wolf in the story, his name is Chuck, and he is a Czechoslovakian wolf dog from France. So wrap your head around that.
He's got a couple of different passports.
Yeah, probably. So about that, they said that the reason that they went with a hybrid, a wolf dog, and not a full-blooded wolf is because wolves are naturally afraid of people. They will stay away from you.
Copy that.
And so I guess if they tried to shoot it with a real wolf, the real wolf would not cooperate.
Yeah.
So they went with a Czechoslovakian wolf dog and got the performance that they needed.
I wonder if that dog speaks Czech or French.
Probably more, since, multiple languages, since he's not an American. So anyway, let's get into the story. So it opens up 20,000 years ago in Europe, and interestingly enough, you'll see a very prehistoric world. We got some volcanoes going, some oil pits, and all the furry versions of animals we have today. We had fuzzy rhinos, mammoths, saber-toothed tigers,
Mastodons.
hyenas. Interestingly enough,
I thought that was cool. So whoever came up with that idea, I don't know if it was the screenwriter, if it was Albert Hughes himself, or it was a production designer. Somebody put in that needed to have real, true to the time, and from the archaeological discoveries over there, Europe had hyenas.
That's
back
true.
20,000 years ago.
Yeah, they said according to some cave art that they found in France, if I'm not mistaken, that there were depictions of African animals being in Europe at the time. So of course I would guess that the landscape changed and then they got separated, but apparently that's true. And then also one of the opening shots is on a hunt. They're hunting some bison.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember learning this in school that they in the movie they kind of corner the bison and run them off of a cliff. And I remember learning that in school that I guess they found piles of bones at the bottom of cliff faces, and they would just assume that that's how
they were stampeded off the cliff.
Yeah.
And then the tribe moved down and ate on what they could eat,
Yeah.
and then continued to move. But in this one, they stampeded. The idea was, and that's where the plot twist comes in, right?
Yeah, because ultimately you got the father, who's the chief, the son, chief's son, and Alpha, the wolf, which are the main characters of the story.
Right. But
And-
they don't introduce the wolf until
About 40 minutes, no, not even, maybe 20, 30 minutes in.
right.
And,
But the reason the kid, it's like a rite of passage, right?
right.
He's going on his first hunt.
Yeah, and I wanted to get your opinion on that because I thought it was an interesting plot point that once they determine that the teenage boys, I guess, are ready to go on the hunt, they have to pass a test and they have to make their own spearhead. And if they make a good spearhead, then they got accepted into the hunt. And after they got accepted to the hunt, they got a beat-in to be part of the hunters. So I thought that that was interesting.
Part of the gang now.
Yeah, you're part of the gang now, man.
We'll set you from.
Yeah, you got beat in to go
Mhm.
hunt this buffalo, dog.
Mhm.
So getting in to the story here. Let's see. Albert Hughes wrote the story, not only directed it, and he said that people have a soft spot for animals. So he wanted to make a story, or write a story, about a boy and a wolf. So he thought that, that's deep in our culture, and he wanted to make a boy and wolf story. And ultimately, it's a concept on how we came to domesticate dogs in the first place.
Right. Well, right now we're at a boy going on a hunt story. How does he meet the wolf?
Okay, so they're on a hunt, and the boy gets thrown off of a cliff by a bison, and he's left for dead, right?
Assumed to be dead.
Assumed to be dead. He's hurt, and then they leave. He finds his way off the cliff, and then he ends up getting stalked by wolves. So he gets stalked by the wolves. He runs to a tree, and while he's trying to climb the tree, he stabs the wolf. And ultimately, he feels bad, so he ends up saving the wolf. The wolf's near dead. So is the guy. So is the boy, and he ends up taking care of it. So then they form a kind of a bond. And I thought that that was a cool take on how would you get your hands on a wolf in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
So it was pretty true to life. If you do a lot of backpacking and stuff like that, and if you've ever been out on a trek and you've had a dog, something like that, if something goes wrong, you're really reliant on that other person or that animal, that dog, or that dog could be really reliant on you. So throughout the winter is coming, and so they wind up having a bond, as you say. They wind up taking care of one another. They have to learn. There's some really funny parts in that part, and some cute parts, some heartwarming parts in that movie. I think they did a good job of being well-rounded,
Mm-hmm.
and that's part of it. And so the boy and the dog, not too far-fetched at all to come up with this situation. I thought that was a good point.
Yeah, and you could tell that Hughes and his screenwriting partner probably thought a lot about this story, about how would you get a wolf on your side in the first place, how then would you ultimately domesticate the wolf, which they go through that in the movie. And the wolf ends up trusting Kata, which is the son of the chief's name, and there's that old cliche about how they say like kids and animals can always tell, kids and pets can tell if you're a good person, and they kind of hinted that in the movie to where the wolf ends up trusting Kata, and so you get that concept from the very beginning, and I actually think that that's true. You know what I mean? When you're meeting a different person and you have a dog or you have a young child, if the dog or the child is kind of skittish around that person, you might want to think twice.
Reconsider your relationship.
Yeah, because I do think that is true. So in the movie, when they're both healing at the same time. Kata's hurt and Alpha is hurt, and right away he almost starts disciplining the wolf and domesticating it and showing dominance. Which, if you keep quote unquote aggressive breed dogs, that's kind of a thing that you have to do. You know what I mean?
All dogs, they respond to dominance. Whoever eats first eats the most. Everybody else gets the scraps. And so at one point, the boy Kata had to assert his dominance over the dog. Once they were kind of healed up and a little more friendly with one another, he had to lay the smackdown on him, so to speak.
Yeah, the dog tried to snatch some meat from him, and he said, I'll feed you. You know what I mean? So, but whether that's offensive to you or not, if you're a dog person, this is how you train a dog.
But it's a real life. I think it's a real life point, that they took over into the film. I think they did a good job of it being fairly realistic, almost the whole way through. Now, the next part that I thought maybe was a little bit out there was Alpha's pack comes showing up one time.
Yeah, that's right. The pack comes back at one point.
Yeah, and so Kata, the boy, says, "Oh, you can go." They're howling for. And he says, "You can go, you can go." And I thought, that's a girl dog, ain't it?
Yeah, and
that's when I kind of thought, oh, that's not a boy dog. Yeah. That's a girl dog.
I was gonna say, if we didn't mention in the beginning, there are spoilers in our reviews. Most of our reviews will always have spoilers.
And we'll try to put it in the title too.
Yeah, we'll throw that up there in the description. Spoilers included. But what was cool about their friendship and their relationship at that point is that once they're both pretty much healed, I thought it was interesting that Kata doesn't use Alpha as a hunting partner. If you remember in the first hunt scene, Alpha uses Kata as her hunting partner.
Right.
They both come up on a pack of boars, and the wolf is the one to initiate the hunt, and then she brings back a boar to Kata, who misses it with his spear, and then they have a standoff. He's like, I just slipped, whatever. But I thought that was another interesting plot point about how when they're trying to survive, the wolf is the one who actually initializes him as her hunting partner. And another thing about training the wolf that they go through is, like I said, this is a movie made for dog people, you can tell. He starts whistling, and when he whistles, the wolf comes and gets a piece of meat from his hand. So right there, he's conditioning the wolf to come when he whistles, which I thought was neat. And they eventually love each other, and they play together. And to his point about at one point when the pack comes back, and you start guessing that Alpha might be a female, at this point. And then what he figured out long before I didn't get the twist at the very end, was that the alpha black male wolf comes back, and the female alpha ends up going with him, and that's when Kata said, if you want to go to your family, you can go. Which I get you had some problems with that, maybe.
Yeah, because a totally undomesticated dog would have run off and would have never come back. But for the sake of the story and how it happened, I thought it played well. They didn't do too bad of it because they're both in the hunt. It's getting to be winter time. You know, most animals and are running down the same thing, looking for food, and that's what this kid is doing. Now he's looking to get back. He's healed up. The dog, it's cold. He's got to get back to his tribe, and then he comes on something where he meets back up with the dog, and the dog has to save him. Typical Hollywood plot.
Yeah.
But pretty well done. Good tension there.
Yeah, I think one person in the special features actually described it as like Lassie at 18,000 BC is pretty much what we're going for.
Yeah,
here.
it was pretty good take on Lassie, I think, because she was always very protective of the little boy. And it's the same type of thing. He gets into trouble. The wolf comes and saves him. At that point, as most Hollywood film does, at the point where he gets into so much trouble that the dog has to save him, his butt would have been dead.
Yeah.
He would have been an icicle right then and there.
And
no coming back from it.
Yeah, well, I mean,
but for the sake of Hollywood,
as for all films, you gotta suspend disbelief. You know what I mean? To enjoy any movie, really, you have to suspend disbelief in order to enjoy the story.
They were doing real good on the realism point until I got there, and then
until he fell through the ice. So what happens they've separated at this point. Keda's walking on his own. It's snowing. And he happens upon a frozen lake. He doesn't realize that it's a frozen lake. He sees the wolves. They've caught an animal. Keda's running to them to try and get some of the meat. And he falls through the ice. And then female Alpha, saves Keda again. Drags him to safety. And then at that point, she won't leave him again. She had gone off with the pack. After initially being saved by Keda, and then she saves him, and then at that point they're thick as thieves. They're boy and wolf at that point, which is what Albert Hughes was trying to go for. Some interesting things about that when they separate at that time. If you look in the shot, I look for neat stuff like this in movies. You see some shooting stars go by that night where they actually separate. She goes off with the male. And they cut back to Keda at the campfire. You see some shooting stars go by, and I just thought that was a really neat, cool bit of writing right there. That to show that they're separating, and then you see some shooting stars. I thought that was a cool metaphor.
Or it could just be that there was no light pollution back then, and you could see stuff like that every night anywhere.
Yeah, which is another thing in the movie that they made a point about, that you can see the Milky Way in the night sky, actually. Apparently 18,000 years ago, no cities, no pollution. The sky was a lot more...
Oh, there was mastodon farts.
Yeah, well, yeah, and, bison farts. That's bad. That's what brought us out of the Ice Age, actually. Oh, and then, notice this now. Y'all look at this and let me know in the comments. I thought I saw a pyramid at the very opening shot. So they open the movie, the camera's moving over a lake, and then right across this big lake in the distance, there's some mountains, but one of them almost looks like a pyramid. So I don't know if that was like a little gem that they were trying to throw in there.
More movies about pyramids.
There definitely needs to be more movies about pyramids.
We should do Stargate one time.
Yeah. We should. And then so he gets stuck in the ice, and then like you said, you are my tribe now. They become each other's tribe. They're totally solely dependent on each other. It's just him and the dog. And if anybody who's kept dogs, I know that you have. Eventually, you do form that bond. It is like a family member. It is no different than a son or a brother or a daughter. It's they're part of your family at that point. And one of the big twists is they're both nearly dead. Towards the end of the movie, they're both nearly dead. That was another interesting point, was that it takes them like a week to get to the hunting grounds, it seemed. And then I know that they're both injured, but didn't it feel like it took them months to get back?
Yeah, well, he'd never been out there before. This was his solo trip. His first trip as a thing. He's lucky he even got back. He's lucky the dog warmed him up after freezing in that ice forever. And he's lucky to even be alive. So Yeah, they're almost dead.
Yeah.
He barely knows where he's going. He's getting his way out, and they're almost dead. They have a run-in with a saber-toothed tiger. Saber-toothed tiger almost takes him out.
Yeah, they fight a saber-toothed tiger, which I thought was really cool. You know, the dog stands up for him. And so they get to the camp. They're both nearly dead. He's carrying the wolf. They fall down. And then the twist, which he caught in the middle, I didn't really catch at the end. Now, I was thinking, it's like, okay, it's going to be an alpha female, right? And so you get the hint. And then at the very end, you realize, oh, it is because she has puppies.
Yay,
right at the end.
lots of little dogs.
Little dogs. And they have the puppies. And then I thought that the very last shot, now I knew that's why I wanted to kick this movie over to him, not only because is he an outdoors person and it all takes place outdoors and it's a survival film. The very final shot I thought was the best. Talk about the final shot.
All right, so the opening shot mimics the final shot, and we really like that kind of thing, continuity in film. They're all in the opening shot. They're creeping on their bellies, getting close as they can to the buffalo. I see the buffalo. We coming up on y'all, buffalo. Y'all can't see us. Ha 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 ha. On the last shot, they're walking towards the buffalo.
Yeah.
And as they're coming up over the hill, there's little four-legged furry friends that come with them.
Yeah.
They're not crawling anymore. They're walking because now they got the dogs will be trained. And now we got more meat, spicy burgers all day long. Everybody's happy. Everybody eats. All right.
And I thought that was they're walking into the future at that point. So if you haven't seen the film, or if you've seen the film, then you know what I'm talking about. So it's like a wide shot. They're walking on the plains. They're coming up over a hill. You got a blue, like what looked like a morning sky or a late night sky happening. They're just silhouetted, and you only see the people coming up over the hill. You see their silhouettes against the blue, then all of a sudden you see the wolves walking right next to them. So they've raised the puppies at this point. They're incorporated into their tribe and their culture. Now they hunt with the wolves. Like he said, they're not sneaking anymore. They're walking right up, boldly going in to the hunt and metaphorically into human society, into the future with the dog. So I thought overall it was a great, entertaining movie. It's only like an hour and 37 minutes. And if you're a dog lover and you're interested in how we even got to domesticate wolves in the first place, I would highly recommend seeing the movie Alpha. We enjoyed it. Hopefully you do too. Let us know what you think in the comments and subscribe to the channel. And we'll have more reviews for you soon.
Peace out.